So I have about an hour and a half to blow here in the small town of Resen, I think it is, or Resen. And it's from here that I will now go south at about 11:30. I have my ticket. So I'll just wander around town, see what I can see. I don't know where the center of town is. There's a school on my right, so I shouldn't be too far away from it. And so far I've said hello to two people and they responded nicely. And I even waved to an older lady who was reading her newspaper on the porch, and she waved back. So maybe just being here, I'm out of the cynicism of Orient. And on a little bit more commercial street, there looks like a little bit of an older building. And down this way, I'll wander, and then I'll make a loop the other way, and that'll take me complete. It was probably a time when this was a more prominent corner than it is now. I'll wander down here to the left just a little. Here are the remains of an old building, not yet fallen. Imagine the lives that walked through that door, that selected that wallpaper perhaps, and hung that little bit of decoration there before leaving. Or the men who first installed that mesh to hold the plaster. Or those beams that held the original floor. How many lives trod across it? Farmers all, perhaps. Maybe this was a better home than most had, who knows. Everywhere in this town you see evidence of the farming around it. The tractors, small wagons for hauling the bags of fruit when they're picked. Again, here an older building. Still retaining some of its elegance. Probably the prime spiritual center of this community, this Catholic church. Or at least Christian. I'm guessing it's, don't know. Interesting that tower is very minaret-like in concept, and it contains a clock, which is the purpose of the minaret. That gives us a little clue, at least to that house. And maybe some of the others. Complex here, I imagine. A little bit older than 46, but maybe not. Just imagine what's happened since 46. Post-war, but then communism, and whatever other trials this country particularly had. But this period would have been under Tito in Yugoslavia, and as long as you didn't openly offend the regime, you were probably reasonably safe and had a pretty good life. There were some very good policies that he incorporated. I don't know if this is Methodist church or not, but notice how the dome at the top is reminiscent of the Muslims. Walking up the back street behind that main drag now, with what I think may be the Methodist church on my left. And from this vantage point, a better look at that interesting dome. Again, these older architecture may reflect more expensive homes surrounding the church. I'm just taking a flying guess. Up here to my right is a Muslim church. Saw the minaret. Pretty doors. The windows decorated with lace, as are the windows upstairs. People here are much friendlier. They actually continue to look at you, oftentimes saying hello in advance of me. Here, a lovely backyard. Look at the blue. Is that a light? Oh, those must be lights. There's pink ones. No, maybe they are tulips. I can't believe they are. I think so. And there's some kind of little tree, whether it's a fruit tree or not. Here a view of the mosque, which again is very plain. That almost looks like a commercial establishment on the bottom right. The instructions tell me that orbit goes that way and center goes this way, so we'll go this way. I'm guessing that means 1925. wonder how long that tree has stood there. You can joke about my asking about that tree, like the chaos theory and events and affecting the world. I think each of those things has a little mini story. We'll never know that story. Did a mother or wife transplant that after, or put that in the ground when they built the house? As you can see, it is the main street, or a main street. Local hardware store, not looking much different than one of the United States. Cafe Mexico. Gotta wonder why that name. Once upon a time a bakery, but no more. And here the town park looks very pretty. Nice restaurant there. Drinking fountain. There's sculpture and also some busts of, up to this community, are famous people. A very pretty park, made for sitting, which is what I very much like, and this one particularly designed that way, which is very, very good. You can see that there is another street, it looks like, that forms part of this city center. Probably an old building on the corner, but I think those banisters are new. This, of course, represents a square. It's probably pretty lively in the evenings. An apple certainly symbolizes the main crop in this area. This is a pretty little building, as is the one across the street from it. Always look for the old architecture because that gives you a little clue of how the city might have looked in the earlier days. One interesting thing is that little platform up there, because that's what would have been used to haul stuff up to the top for storage and to get furniture into those second floors. There's some wonderful structures providing cover partially for the local market. And here another pretty old building just outside the limits of the center. I think I've made a nice loop because I think down there I hear yelling from the kids in the school, and this should be where it is at. So I'll go down here to the left just for the fun, because I think I got probably another hour. This street's a little bit interesting because old buildings seem to be on the right side, and the left side, at least right here, sporting new and somewhat imaginative designs. And here I think a new building and reflecting the old style. Another old building, and you can guess from that gate at the left there, in spite of that building in between, that that was probably one property. You can imagine when then this building was new, it was probably a home set back on a fairly decent sized lot. And now, of course, it's all been built up around, and probably its lot packed into smaller pieces. And here are a couple of older buildings. Whether those were homes or not, I don't know. This other one quite large, perhaps an apartment house, or maybe even a large duplex. Right across to those other two buildings, and there probably was quite a nice building on this corner. I had met on the bus and he directed me off, and I'm roaming around town, and there I see him, and we meet again. So I wanted a piece about this size, but all I had was big loaves. So I bought the loaf, had her cut this piece off for me, and I gave her the rest. I was surprised she couldn't quite understand that. That's no big deal, but I just don't want to carry around or eat that much. Very old building of that style. Administrative, or was it apartments? Hard to tell. This large building in that old style must be a regional or town hall, I would think. with its faux August. Pretty old marble, that cream with maroon or purple inside of it. It's interesting, looks like an old dugout canoe. I don't know what it is in total, but in part it's a museum. I'll bet those were footrests they're built in. These out of a rose and cream marble. Imagine when these banisters were freshly varnished wood. The old glass. Look like remnants of mosaics. Here another flat bottom boat. Perhaps the sides have worn away. Fishing nets. It's interesting too that the base around here uses the same kind of marble. With that discovery, I'll work my way back to the bus station. Here are very old buildings still standing amidst the newer ones on this back area of this particular block. Here a saw attachment running off this little tractor device. We are sardines. We are little fish in can. Sardines. There in the distance you can see Lake Prespa, which is on the other side of those mountains, of course, is Lake Ohrid. Lake Prespa, as you know, being a higher elevation, drains through those mountains to Lake Ohrid. So I can remember you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye bye. This is the town that Henry lives in. Henry. See you. Brajchino is up there somewhere, I think.